All right, buckle up because we're diving headfirst into the kind of art world drama they make movies about.
Oh, tell me we're talking about those Renaissance rivalries again.
You guessed it. This time, we're tackling a listener request, a deep dive into the feud between Brunelleschi and Ghiberti.
Two titans of the early Florentine Renaissance.
And we've got a feast of sources to unpack.
From that book, you brought all about their rivalry to some juicy tidbits from Vasari's lives of the artists.
Which, let's be honest, is basically the Renaissance equivalent of a gossip column, right?
Pretty much. But those dishes give us incredible insight into the personalities and the pressures of the time.
We're talking sabotage, secret ambitions, and masterpieces for the ages.
Get ready to see how two guys, fueled by talent and maybe a little too much ego,
Ended up shaping the way we see art even today.
So to set the scene, imagine Florence in the late 1300s, early 1400s.
Not exactly a relaxing time and place, if I remember my history.
It's like the city's been through the ringer, plague, war, political turmoil.
But there's something about those periods, right? Like out of chaos comes.
This incredible energy, this hunger for something new. And in Florence, that meant art.
And that's where the guilds come in.
More than just craftspeople, they were power players.
Right, like the Medicis, they weren't just bankers, they were patrons of the arts.
Exactly. These guilds funded the big art projects,
Mm-hmm.
statues, churches, you name it.
So it wasn't just about beauty, it was about,
Prestige, influence. They were trying to one-up each other constantly.
think cutthroat reality show, but with chisels and paintbrushes instead of confessionals.
Pretty much.
Right.
And into this artistic pressure cooker step our main players, Brunelleschi and Ghiberti.
Okay, so give me the rundown. What were these guys like?
They were the rising stars, but with wildly different styles.
Okay, like Clash of the Titans, but artistic edition.
Exactly. Brunelleschi was raw, emotional, almost explosive in his work.
And Ghiberti.
He was all about grace, harmony, that classic beauty the time period was known for.
So we've got our contenders, the city's buzzing. What's the match that lights this whole rivalry on fire?
1401. The competition to end all competitions, bronze doors for the Florence Baptistery.
Hold on. Those doors. The ones with the...
The gates of paradise, yeah. But this competition was for the first set of doors.
Wow. Okay, so high stakes from the get-go.
This wasn't just any commission.
This was a chance to make your mark, literally, on one of the most sacred spots in Florence.
And the guilds knew it. They set up this elaborate multi-stage process.
No pressure then.
Imagine this. 7 finalists, all masters in their own right.
Whoa. 7? That's like making it to the finals of I don't even know.
Each had to present a bronze panel depicting the same scene, the sacrifice of Isaac.
Talk about a high-pressure bake-off. What did these panels look like?
Well, imagine this. Brunelleschi's panel, it's all sharp angles, raw emotion.
Getting those Michelangelo vibes already.
Right. Abraham's practically got Isaac in a headlock. You can feel the tension, the anguish.
Powerful stuff. And Ghiberti.
Complete opposite. Smooth, elegant, almost peaceful.
Wait, for a scene about to get pretty brutal.
That's the thing. Isaac is almost posing there's a sense of grace, even in this dramatic biblical scene.
So who wins this epic showdown?
Ghiberti. He snags the commission.
No way. The one that, from your description, sounds almost tame.
And that's where things get really interesting.
I bet it is. Lay it on me.
You see, there were whispers even then.
Oh, I love a good art history conspiracy.
Lorenzo, potentially illegitimate, wasn't even supposed to be in the running.
Wait, seriously? Based on what?
Strict guild rules at the time, being illegitimate, it was a whole thing.
Juicy. So was the fixin'?
We don't know for sure, but the impact on Brunelleschi was undeniable.
Crushed, I imagine, after all that work.
Some say he was so devastated by this loss, he swore off sculpture entirely.
Wait, seriously, the guy was considered a genius and just walked away? So wait, are we saying Brunelleschi basically pulled a Michelangelo and became an architect out of spite?
Not quite. It's more nuanced than that. But his story takes a fascinating turn. Remember those lost years we mentioned?
Oh, right. After the competition, he basically drops off the map.
Right. And there are theories about what he was up to. Some historians believe he went to Rome.
Rome. Huh. Makes sense. Ancient ruins, artistic inspiration, all that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just about inspiration for Brunelleschi. He was drawn to the engineering, to how those buildings worked.
This is where those Roman engineering marvels come in, right? The Pantheon, the Colosseum.
Exactly. See, back then, people weren't excavating those ruins like we do now.
They were just kind of there.
Pretty much. They had books, of course, but the structures themselves, largely untouched.
So Brunelleschi was part of this first wave of, like, hands-on architectural investigation.
He and Donatello, another Renaissance giant, they were going beyond the books. They measured, sketched, tried to understand how the Romans built on such a grand scale.
That's amazing. Like, they were reverse engineering the Roman Empire.
And this is where those lost years become so crucial for Brunelleschi. It's like he took his raw talent, combined it with this newfound understanding of Roman engineering.
And boom, architectural genius was born.
You got it. But remember, this was still Brunelleschi, the guy known for his sharp wit and even sharper tongue.
Oh, right. The guy who wasn't afraid to spar with stuffy scholars.
Exactly. There's this great anecdote about Brunelleschi and Niccolò, this famous book collector.
Was this the philosopher without books incident?
You know it.
Yeah.
Niccoli, basically implying Brunelleschi was uneducated, called him a philosopher without books.
Ouch, fighting words.
And Brunelleschi, without missing a beat, shot back. Or books without a philosopher.
Okay, that's a mic drop moment.
Right. But while Brunelleschi was off having his Roman adventure, Ghiberti was busy cementing his own legacy in Florence.
Right, because winning that first baptistry door competition wasn't enough.
Not even close. He became the guy for bronze work in Florence, doors, fountains, huge projects.
Those projects must have required serious management skills.
Absolutely. And that's another thing that makes Ghiberti so interesting. He wasn't just an artist. He was an entrepreneur.
So, like, the Renaissance equivalent of a creative director at a high-end design firm.
With a side of political maneuvering, remember his potentially scandalous background.
Right, the whole illegitimate birth thing.
To solidify his place in Florentine society, he ended up paying a massive fine.
Wow, talk about driven. So we've got Brunelleschi back from Rome with his newfound knowledge, and Ghiberti's Mr. Florence.
And things are about to get even more interesting.
All right, so the stage is set for round 2 of Brunelleschi versus Ghiberti. What's the next chapter in this artistic showdown?
Well, picture this. It's the 1420s, and Florence has this giant problem on its hands.
And that problem is?
The dome of the Florence Cathedral. It had been sitting unfinished for decades.
Wait, seriously, why? What was the holdup?
It was a massive engineering headache. Nobody could figure out how to build a dome that big, that high, without it collapsing.
I'm starting to get a little claustrophobic just thinking about it.
And into this impossible situation steps who else? Brunelleschi?
Armed with all his Roman secrets and probably a healthy dose of I'll show them.
Right. He'd been studying Roman architecture for years, and he had this radical idea. A dome within a dome, using a special herringbone brick pattern, and all these ingenious techniques.
Hold on, a dome within a dome? How does that even...
I know, right? It sounds crazy, but he was convinced it would work.
So he basically invented a whole new way of building just to prove everyone wrong.
He was more than that. He saw what others couldn't, this elegant solution to a seemingly impossible problem, and he was determined to make it happen.
Talk about audacious. But getting everyone else on board with this crazy plan, I'm guessing that was another battle altogether.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking guilds, politicians, and of course the Medici family, now becoming a major force in Florence.
Right, because a glorious dome wasn't enough, they also had to flex their political muscles.
The Medici, they understood the power of a good PR campaign. And what better way to cement your influence than by being the family who gave Florence its crowning architectural achievement?
Okay, that makes sense. So we've got Brunelleschi battling physics, gravity, and probably a mountain of red tape. Where does Ghiberti fit into all this?
Ghiberti never wanted to be outdone. He was busy securing his own legacy. Remember those baptistry doors he won the competition for?
The ones that launched this whole rivalry in the first place?
Those are the ones. Well, he managed to snag a commission for a second set.
He was like, hold my chisel, I'm not done yet.
Pretty much. And these weren't just any doors. They became known as the Gates of Paradise. They were even more elaborate, even more awe-inspiring than the first set.
Wow. Even Michelangelo praised them.
Right, he did. Called them fit to be the Gates of Paradise, hence the name.
So 2 massive projects, 2 artistic titans, 1 very competitive city. I'm sensing a photo finish here.
It was a close one, but the thing about this rivalry, it wasn't a clear-cut victory for one or the other.
You mean there was no knockout punch, no final winner-takes-all moment?
Nope. Brunelleschi, he pulled it off. The dome was finished in 1437.
Centuries later, and it's still standing.
Right. It became the symbol of Florence, this impossible dream made real. And it changed architecture forever.
No argument there. And Ghiberti.
His Gates of Paradise are still considered masterpieces of bronze work. these incredibly detailed, almost overwhelming depictions of biblical scenes.
So it's like they both won, in a way, pushing each other to achieve things that seemed impossible.
And here's the real kicker. Their rivalry wasn't just about competition. There's evidence they consulted each other, offered advice, even criticism.
Wait, really? They were secretly friends all along?
Not quite friends, but they definitely respected each other's talents. Remember, they were both at the top of their game.
So iron sharpens iron, as they say. They needed each other to become the legends they are today.
And their legacy? It didn't end with bricks and bronze. Think Donatello, Michelangelo.
The all-star lineup of the Renaissance, how are they connected?
All influenced by both Brunelleschi and Ghiberti. Their innovations, their styles, their sheer audacity, it sparks something.
So this rivalry, as much as it was about ego and ambition, it also sparks this chain reaction of creativity that we're still feeling the effects of today.
It makes you wonder what other artistic rivalries throughout history have secretly shaped the world we live in.
Now that's something to ponder. Well, there you have it. Brunelleschi versus Ghiberti, a rivalry for the ages.
Proof that even a little bit of artistic friction can spark something amazing.
And who knows, maybe you'll spot a little Brunelleschi or Ghiberti in the next work of art you encounter. Keep an eye out. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.